Hey everybody, thanks for joining us once again for Polygon Live. I'm Griffin McElroy, Senior Editorial Producer for Polygon. We're going to check out LittleBigPlanet 3 today, a big surprise from the Sony press conference. Joining me is Colin from Polygon. How are you doing?
Hello, how you doing?
And Tom O'Connor from Sony Europe. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. Congratulations, I guess, on getting one past us.
Yeah.
On sneaking in, what's that there behind the cabinet? One more present is LittleBigPlanet 3, the game that I don't think any of us really saw coming, but I'm very happy that it's here. We're going to check out some live gameplay of a level that we have yet to see, a single-player level from the campaign of LittleBigPlanet 3, and then maybe later we will check out some of the multiplayer. So obviously the big thing that's new this time around is different playable characters other than just Sackboy. Can you give us sort of a rundown of who we're dealing with here?
Yeah, sure. So this is an example of one of the single-player levels in the game, which you can also play with up to 4 players, but it's where the focus is really on this new character called Toggle. With this character, Toggle's unique abilities that he can change between being, big and strong and being able to kind of smash through walls. He's really heavy, so he can sink in water. But then he can press a button and just become small. And when he's small, he's a lot faster. He can walk on water, and he can fit through small gaps.
He can walk on water.
He can walk. He's like Jesus, yeah. So when we thought about what new features we could add to LittleBigPlanet 3, we, with all the previous games, we've expanded the things that you can do, but they've always been based around Sackboy. So we were like, well, what else can we do? We can definitely do some more things with Sackboy, but how about adding some new characters? So what you'll see is that the characters that we've added, it's not just an aesthetic thing, because aesthetically you can customize Sackboy. These are real game changers. So as you're seeing here, kind of using the weight to kind of move pulleys in the environments, and then you'll see Toggle use springs, fit through small gaps like this one. And this is just a taste, really, of the type of thing you can expect in the single-player experience.
So if this was if multiple people played this level, they would have to play as Toggle, right? Or else there are some areas that they just wouldn't be able to get through.
Yeah, sure. So in this level, if you want to play alone, you can play it alone. If you want to play with friends, you can play with up to 4 Toggle characters. And it's really cool, actually, when you see multiple Toggle characters in the level, some big, some small, all fully customized. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's a neat mechanic. Shooting down in the water when you're big Toggle. And
it is right, because the great thing about it is that LittleBigPlanet's a very physical game.
Sure.
You see something, you see sponge acts like sponge, you see brick acts like brick. With this, he's heavy, he sinks, he's light, he pops up, and he can kind of jump to really high places.
Did you begin with a sense of what the different characters would be able to do, what their powers would be, or was that a process that you had to get to?
Sure. So the thing with LittleBigPlanet is we always approach it from a gameplay perspective, and we always think about what is it we would need to create from a tool side of things to create that fun gameplay, so that we can then give those tools back to the community. So with these characters, we thought about gameplay. How can we add some unique gameplay? How can we give them a unique silhouette? Now, when they're in a lineup, they all look completely different. And what's interesting about this character is that he's actually 2 characters, and we present him in our adventure as Toggle, who switches between 2 states. As a creator, you can switch between any 2 characters. You could create a level where you toggle between Big Toggle and Swoop. You could create a level where you switch between Big Toggle, who's solid, and then a Big Toggle who's invisible. You could do whatever you want.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, because I was going to ask, you guys have done, or the creators of LittleBigPlanet games have done a lot of stuff to add complexity to the creation tools, especially the jump between LittleBigPlanet 1 and LittleBigPlanet 2 was magnitudes. There were a lot more things on offer. But you've never added extra playable characters before, and I'm curious to hear. I know you guys haven't really shown off, but just how much freedom that gives you as a creator.
So it gives you a lot of freedom, actually. So in terms of being able to, as well as the default abilities, it's all about complexity, but in LittleBigPlanet 3, because you've got these characters with default unique abilities, you can create fun gameplay around them straight away. So I can go into create mode, I can actually navigate create as any of those characters, which means that I can jump into create, I can test my gameplay really quickly, I can iterate on top of it. If I want to use Toggle in a level, I can use some kind of elastic and some sponge to make kind of a bit of a catapult if I wanted to.
Sure.
I can pull it back while he's heavy, I can release it when he's small and then fire across the level. You can create kind of really open type levels with Swoop, because you can kind of fly around. And then with Oddsock's really fast. I think we'll see a lot of endless runners with that character.
I think one of the common themes of people using the creation tools to like try and hack Little Big Planet to create even like different genres and stuff is people trying to figure out how to use those tools to make flying characters. So I think it was really interesting that Swoop was a part of that. One of the things that I thought was kind of that worried me a little bit was in the demo that you guys showed during the press conference and that we played at the booth yesterday was whenever we get stuck, Swoop could just come down and get you and move you up to wherever it is that you needed to go. How do you, I guess, balance sort of the puzzle platforming structure of the game when you have a character that at any time could just...
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things on that one. So first of all, the level that we showed at the press conference, that was actually built for the press conference. So it was a short 3-minute level. It introduced each character individually, and each character had its unique abilities. In the main game, you will be introduced to the characters kind of in a more steady kind of flow. So you'll start the game as Sackboy, you play as Sackboy, then you'll unlock another character, you'll play as that character. So it's not as if you can kind of become any character at any time, because we have to maintain that, as you say, kind of define tune the balance to make sure that you can't just always be the bird and always fly through the whole level. So there's definitely kind of like a linear path through. But in terms of the creators and the community, they can certainly create levels like we've done with the press conference. They could make levels that have, you know, 2 Swoop characters. They can do levels that have multiple characters. It really kind of is up to the community to create anything that they want.
There must be a certain sense of belief in the community, because the potential complexity of the levels that are available now with all 4 characters, 16 levels of depth, are vastly further than they were before. You must be saying to yourself, we think the community can make some pretty amazing things here.
Sure, so definitely there's so many more features. We learn a lot from our community. So for example, the 16 layers, we saw people in Little Big Planet 2 kind of doing glitches to get more layers to create things like first-person shooters, but they'd always be a little bit broken. They wouldn't feel quite right, and we were like, let's just unlock that ability. Let's give people more depth in the environments. Then it's, well, let's give people easy tools to be able to transition between the layers. So we've now got layer launchers where Sackboy and friends can kind of fire into the screen, can come back into the screen. There's so many more tools we've put in to actually make it more accessible as well. So in previous Little Big Planet games, you would have Stephen Fry tutorials, then you'd kind of jump into a blank page and people would be like, where do I begin? And we've added in some kind of like interactive tutorials in like a fun setting, which we've not shown at E3, but we will definitely be showing that later in the year. And it's brilliant, you know, through kind of like user testing, through people getting hands-on with it, they end up becoming familiar with the basics of Create without even realizing it. And then they can then experience the breadth of what the game can bring.
I think it's also a pretty big value proposition in that all of the levels from Little Big Planet 1 and 2 will be backwards compatible with Little Big Planet 3. So
sure.
As soon as you put the disc in, there's, what is it, almost 9 million?
8.7 million levels.
Yeah.
The thing with that was, very early on, it was actually one of the things that we said we absolutely have to support. We worked out that the community on LBP2 have spent 41 million hours creating content, and the creator community is only a small percentage of the overall players, and we only need that small percentage to create great content. But it would have been wrong for us to have not brought that content across. So yeah, absolutely, day one, PlayStation 4, access to the servers, you can pull those levels down and play them straight away, and they'll be up-resed on PlayStation 4 as well.
Do we have any more B-roll of the multiplayer footage?
When Little Big Planet first was announced, the whole idea of user-generated content was actually pretty new. You guys were starting that trend, which is now very much part of the culture.
Sure.
Did you feel a sense of responsibility about having to be at the forefront of creating tools that people can understand, but also giving people the power to make things that are truly impressive rather than just seem impressive?
Yeah, sure. The thing with Little Big Planet is, yeah, there's definitely been a lot more games that have creative kind of tools to create UGC, things like that. The thing about Little Big Planet is we have the tools in kind of like their rawest form. They're the most flexible. So what you'll find in Little Big Planet is that you'll get a huge diversity of content. Whereas in some of like the other games, you might get kind of things that feel quite similar, like they'll look quite similar to the main game. But yeah, it's definitely kind of, we definitely feel responsible, and you know that kind of that genre of game has definitely moved on since the first Little Big Planet game. But with the new tools that we've added into Little Big Planet 3, there's just so many more things you can do now. We just can't wait for that community to get their hands on with it. And as I said before, we only need like a small, tiny percentage of people to create great levels, and you'd still have hundreds and hundreds of levels to play.
Can you give us an example? Because you mentioned already the adding the different layers so that people don't have to cheat their way into that. LittleBigPlanet 2 added, it recognized that LittleBigPlanet 1 creators were creating these enormous switchboards
like
that were the craziest thing, like people who made working computers inside just using the if or switches. And LittleBigPlanet 2 added a microchip feature. Is there anything else like that you can tell us about that takes what users were already doing and makes it a lot simpler?
Yeah, sure. So there's over 60 new tools in the game, and we also include all the previous ones that have gone before as well. And we've even tweaked some of them. So as well as the new things we put in for the characters, so you can tweak those characters. We've added something which is really cool, which is something for Sackboy called the Power-Up Creator. So what we found was that we always include great power-ups with the games. LP1 had things like Jetpack. LP2, you had the Creatinator, you could fire things from his head, stuff like that. This time around, the Pumpinator that you can now see, which can kind of like blow air and pull air, that was created with our own new tool, the Power-Up Creator. So the community can now create their own power-ups.
That's really neat.
Which means that it's not just about what we give you in your Poppet, you can create anything you like.
How is that different from, because you had you had a Creatinator in the last game that you could kind of do your own stuff with.
Yeah, so the Creatinator in the last game, basically you could emit objects from the hat. And you could do any objects, you can make it blow up. This time around, you can attach any 3D mesh from the game into Sackboy's hand, and you can attach logic to it. So you could create like a laser gun. You could create like the Pumpinator we've done. You could have a big massive fork where you catch chicken drumsticks. You could do anything you want. You can absolutely do anything you want. And we've seen already some of our guys on the team just create some really fun things using that new tool. On top of that as well, Sackboy can now carry his power-ups around with him. So we've got another new tool called the Sack Pocket, which means that Sackboy can now carry his power-ups around, which means that, again, it opens up even more possibilities in what you can create and share.
Can we expect to see anything like the cross-controller pack? Because the developer of the game, that was the last thing for LittleBigPlanet that they worked on, and I thought that was one of the coolest expansion packs that LittleBigPlanet ever got.
Sure, yeah, so the cross-controller was extremely innovative, and we are definitely looking at ways that we can maybe bring that functionality across to LP3 in the future.
Cool.
I'm interested in the character design because they are lovely little charming characters. How difficult is it to infuse these little socks or whatever they are with character and personality? It must take time and effort.
It does take time and effort because the thing with Sackboy is that he was originally created as like as a blank canvas, but he's definitely got personality. But it's getting that balance between something that has enough personality to make you feel as though you want to play with that character, but also make it kind of blank enough that you can express your individuality on it with costumes and kind of dress them up. So we were definitely nervous about introducing new characters, and we wanted them to not be just different versions of Sackboy. They couldn't have just been like a big version with a zip and a bird with a zip. That would have been a bit of an easy option. So we wanted to make them feel like they belong to the universe, but they had their own individuality as well. So it's definitely been a challenge. But the responses that we've had from the show, I think people are really liking the new characters.
Do you find that people play these games as a way to learn about game design, and some of them have gone on to become professional game designers? Is that?
That's definitely the case. I think some people just enjoy the main game and they enjoy playing other people's creations. But in terms of like the creator community, I mean, we have seen some amazing levels created by a community, so much so that we've actually employed some of them.
Yeah, I know several people at Mina
Several people, and even that Sumo Digital, it's like, a big chunk of their design team are actually from the community. So it was really interesting because some of the creators almost kind of like disappeared from the community because we said, listen guys, any great ideas you've got, you need to put them into this game. And there was one guy whose ideas like Steve Big Guns, and he created some of the most amazing levels in LittleBigPlanet 2 and 1. And he kind of like disappeared, and the people in the community were making levels like, is Steve Big Guns dead? And it was like, and we couldn't say anything, he just seemed to disappear.
You let them think that this man had died.
Now they know he's not dead.
Okay, well that's good to hear. Well, that's LittleBigPlanet 3. Thank you very, very much for coming to show it to us.
Thank you.
It was a big surprise. I still want to know how it didn't leak at all. Maybe that's a story for another time. Thank you all very much for watching. Stay tuned. We will have more E3 videos and previews and news and all kinds of things at In With Ooze later this week. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining us. Bye.